Greetings all, and no, you're not on the wrong channel, and no, I am not about to start diverging into a series of videos where there's a bloke sitting behind a desk with a gun in front of him. But this is what I have to do sometimes to get access to some of the more unusual tank-related stuff. And so I am at the Royal Armouries in the UK, and I happen to be in the area-ish. It's a relative term in the UK for Americans. And I had a look at their catalogue. Do you mind awfully if I come up and do some tank-related stuff? And so the first one I've got here is an American disaster. You think the Americans might be good at building firearms. Well, this is an example of the fact that it's not always a given. And this is the M73. It was designed to be a coaxial machine gun for the M48 and M60 tanks. The first mount was on an M60, but it uses an M48 turret on the Slick 60 or the A0, depending on what your percentage is. And it was designed for a very, very specific use case, and it failed to meet that one very specific use case. So the initial design criterion, because they're replacing at this point some of the older, like rebarreled 30 cals, rechambered 30 cals in the coax mount. We're gone to 7.62. And what we will do for the sake of logic is let's use a 7.62 that fires the same ammunition, the same belts as the M60 machine gun, which we have just brought into service. And we're in kind of like the mid-late 1950s at this point. And so they had to think about, well, what is really important in a tank mount for a coax? And the answer is interior space. So any cubage that is taken up inside a turret is at best inconvenient, and at worst a volume that you have to now protect with armor, makes your tank heavier, makes your tank bigger. There's lots of reasons to make as small a coaxial machine gun as possible. And so they figured there was a certain amount of the machine gun had to be inside the turret wall, behind the armor. And that was only as much as was needed to feed the ammunition, any recoiling space as necessary. So if you had to, if you had to send the bolt back to drag the round forward, well, you needed that much amount of space. To change the barrel, and everything else had to be forward. And so they had a crack at this. And as you can see, the initial design requirement was met because the feed is here and it's barely the length of a 7.62 round behind it. So yeah, it worked great. Now, a couple of design quirks. Most coaxial machine guns, you're going to look for pin mounts that maybe a quick release pin, or it'll be mounted into a cradle. You'll mount the receiver into a cradle and clamp it down, and well, that would be too simple. They decided that they were going to mount the gun to the tank on a single point, and it will be clamped here on the mounting position. One single point. So it's free at the front, the barrel jacket and flash hider, and I'll talk about the booster in a second. And the receiver is free at the rear. And there is a very good reason why they did not pin the receiver down. It's a questionable reason if, on case of balance, because of course the M73 did not work very well despite entering service. In fact, it was disastrous. So I mean, I hate to kind of step on the toes of other folks, but I'm going to open it up now in a second. You're going to see how it works. But the first thing to notice is that this is an extremely ambidextrous machine gun. So on the M60, M48, it's designed for left feed. It's mounted to the left of the main gun. But if for some reason you wanted to mount it right feed, it wasn't hard to do. And it's very symmetrical. So for example, the top cover, you want to open up the top cover. Instead of a latch at the back, there's a little side latch. You push in and swing up out of the way. But if you want it to be left, if you happen to be left feed and you want to open it up going the other way, there is a similar latch on the other side, push forward, and the top cover opens that way. The feed tray has an R and an L setting as well. You simply move it from one to the other, depending which way you're feeding. It's all very clever. So the next thing, if you wanted to save a little bit of space, and you would either come across this with the, let's say, the MG42 issue for why didn't you put an MG42 as a coax or the whole gun on a Panzer, changing barrels. Changing barrels takes a bit of space. Now, if you look at the M240, the FN Mag, which eventually replaced this thing in service because surprisingly enough, the Belgians made a gun that worked where the Americans didn't. It's actually located a fair bit behind the front of the tank. So if you imagine this was an M240, the actual armor plate of the M1 would be here, then you'd have what we call the smoke box, and it's just simply a big long gap that seals where all the gases are. So, it's still around the barrel, it doesn't go over the receiver, but it comes back, and its sole job is to fill up the space between where the armor plate is and where the mechanism of the gun is. So what you do at that point is you have enough room to change the barrel on a 240 in the same manner that you would change the barrel on a ground mount 240. You rotate the barrel, lift it up a little bit out of the way, and then slide. So you have to have that room to move to slide. And the German machine gun had the same problem. You had to change the MG42 barrel, you'd move it to the side, you had to have that room to slide. Extremely space efficient with this because what we have is a receiver that actually swings around. Okay, now to show you how weird the barrel change system is, I'm going to enlist the help of a beautiful assistant. Mr. Ferguson, please give me a hand here. So,
you never called me beautiful before.
No? All right, so Mr. Ferguson here, John, is going to represent the fact that the front end of the gun is mounted in place and everything else back here is hanging, literally hanging over the void of the interior of the turret. The other thing we discovered doing this before we recorded this is that you do not want to have the gun in an elevated position when you do this because the entire ass end of the gun is going to fall off if you don't. So it's actually beautifully simple itself. I mean, you technically don't even have to clear the weapon before you do this. All you do, I would advise you to, but technically you don't. All you do is there are two of these pins, and depending which way you want to swing the gun open, you pull the appropriate pin. So for the sake of the camera, I'm going to pull this one. Comes all the way out, all the way out when you get a grip. And it starts to swing open. And it is only held in place by the counterpoint pin on the left-hand side. So now you have this entire machine gun body just swinging loose on a hinge. Pull the barrel out. A little bit dusty. Oh well. All right. They'll work on that after the show. Put your new barrel in. All the way. Make sure the lug here is flush. And then you just simply swing it back around again. And we've also discovered that if you don't put the gun in exactly the right distance, which I think is just a manufacturing error here, you cannot get this closed. But you push up, hold back on the pin again, and
That's that barrel problem
and there's
again.
that barrel again. Let's pull back just a smidgen. We'll try again. Oh, come on. Doesn't look like it's interfering badly. As you see, there's nothing on the other end. So if this gun was elevated, this pin wouldn't hold it. Okay. No, definitely not. If you or a friend have ever been abused by an M73, for fuck's sorry. A bit more. Imagine doing this in a tank with the main gun right here. For the love. Sorry.
Is level or elevated at the rear better for you?
Well, no, the way you have it is fine.
Well, try it down.
Okay,
There
there we go.
I think they could put a chamfer on the pin or something to help to assist it.
Yeah, I'm just going to put a couple of audio clips that were recorded when we were playing with this earlier, so you can get an idea of the reaction we have gotten as we've been trying to futz around with this. So a round of applause, please, for our beautiful assistant, Jonathan. So as you can see, it worked. It met the design requirements. It takes no space whatsoever to operate and change the machine gun and so on. You're starting to see some of the problems. Now, unfortunately, that's just a practical problem. Now, that thing with the barrel lug, maybe it's just a mismatched barrel, an old design barrel or something like that they didn't quite get right. And I'm assuming that the correct barrel distance, it's a fixed headspace barrel, but I would assume that the correct distance would be machined into it so you're not having that futzing around at the back like I was having. That said, because the receiver is held only by one pin when you have this thing open, it still wobbles around a lot, so you still have the issue of getting alignment. All right, so for, again, reasons we do not understand, somebody has built this ground mount that clamps the receiver, the barrel jacket in place. The stroke is basically, it's a short recoil stroke similar to the M2 machine gun. The entire barrel will recoil together with the bolt as it fires. There is an accelerator on the bolt, which is how you get the space to do the ejection, extraction, whatever. So when they started building this thing, and let me see if I can take off the receiver here. No, not receiver, but the 1, 2. Right, take off the top cover, take off the feeder. The problem is that they had feeding issues. There wasn't enough gas coming back for the short stroke to reliably work. So what they did was they added a booster onto the muzzle. All right, so what the booster does is it adds a little bit more blowback, shall we say, to the recoil stroke, makes it more accurate. The problem is it also makes it faster. So they ended up with a generally functioning gun, it would reliably stroke far enough, with a rate of fire in excess of 1,000 RPM. So we're talking like MG34 speeds here. This was considered a little bit too fast. So what they put into the back of this thing is a whole series of springs and delays. So basically, the round would fire, the mass would recoil back at the speed appropriate to a 1,000 RPM gun, and then it would be a pause whilst the delays took effect. Hammer would come forward, strike the first firing pin, and then everything would go on again for 1,000 RPM speeds. So inherently, you're firing, with the mechanism moving around that fast, you're going to have more reliability problems. There are further issues with the mechanism, with the feed clause, and so on. So I had mentioned the first firing pin. There are 2 firing pins. In order to save a little bit of space, I guess, they put the hammer to the side. So the hammer is not located directly behind the firing pin. Yet, obviously, the cartridge, the primer, is in the middle of the firing pin. So you cannot strike a firing pin cartridge at an angle. So as you can see, firing pin is here, cartridge is here, and the line of angle is like this. If you try to do that with a primer cartridge, it will fail to fire. So they have to get the firing pin to do a 30-degree angle partway along. And that's why there are 2 firing pins. Hammer falls, strikes firing pin number 1, which goes as far as the center line of the gun, which then strikes firing pin number 2. Firing pin number 2 then goes forward and strikes the base of the 7.62. Hands up anybody who can see a flaw of reliability or anything else. It also turned out that there was a couple of types of ammunition that theoretically worked on the M60 but didn't work on the M73. They had to develop a slightly different M73 ammunition, which in fairness the M60 could fire, but okay. So after a little bit of while futzing around with this, they put it into service. I mean, they try to make some modifications and fixes. They put it into service, and then the Israelis get a hold of it, and they start using it in the 1967 war. And it's kind of like, what is this stuff that you have given me? Whatever the Hebrew word is for stuff in the negative context. And the army was basically forced to face the fact that if they hadn't already found out about it from their own use, they had created a dud. And eventually there was a derivative. There's the M73A1, just basically turned into the M219, supposedly 3 times as good, hence 73 to 219. But it may also just be a coincidence. And well, that didn't really solve the problems either, so they had another competition, the FN Mag 1, which probably should have won in the first place, and we have now ever since had a good coaxial machine gun. Let's see what else I can pull off here. So I've done that. Backplate comes next. Breech is forward. Backplate is removed. Ow. I think it's just straight up, isn't it? No. Aha. So the next thing you need is you need a little screwdriver. Bollocks to that.
Should do it, I think.
Let's find out.
Prefer to use brass if we can, but
I think it was outwards. No, that wasn't. It was inwards. There we go.
There we go. Yeah. That's moderately clever, although I'm not sure I trust the pins.
There we go. I mean, I can't think of many other machine guns you actually need to have a screwdriver, a legitimate screwdriver. I mean, I'm just like, okay, use the base of a cartridge round, use a stripper clip, or what?
Cleaning rod end, maybe?
Cleaning rod, but I mean, this requires an honest to God screwdriver to do it.
Pretty much.
I'm going to move something forward, shouldn't move forward. There we go. So this now comes out, and the barrel is only supported now between the mounting point and the, this is called the barrel extension. So we hold it so it does not fall. We can now separate the barrel from the barrel extension, and the breech block slides out this way. The breech block is supposed to slide out this way. It is failing to slide out that way. It's also failing to slide out the other way. It looked much simpler on the instructional video. I don't know, wait, hang on, does it come up? Nope. This thing is absolutely coated with 1960s oil. There we go, that's how it comes out. And this almost completes the field stripping the gun. What I haven't done is remove the charger assembly on the left hand side. It's also ambidextrous. You can put charger assembly on the far side as well if you like. So this is technically receiver group. This is the barrel mount or the mounting assembly, which again, it comes off. You simply pull one and then it comes off the other because it's the way it's mounted on the stand here. I'm not going to do that. I shall now pan over the disassembled parts so you can see this awesome weapon in its full naked glory. I'm already starting to dislike it. So I'm looking at what appears to be a solenoid. This was an electrically fired machine gun, of course, so there has to be a solenoid in the system somewhere. But they do have the flat trigger that you could use if the electrics went out. All right, now if you want to get the real details on the development and the problems and the fixes, there's a fantastic article on smallarmsreview.com about the joys of the M73. But as a significant emotional event, shall we say, in the history of tank design, I did think this was worth a look, even though this is absolutely not my forte. I'm sure there are people that can tell you everything you want to know about each individual component of the barrel extension group. I am not that person. I am not going to try. But if nothing else, at least you know what it looks like and how this thing was supposed to solve a tank design problem and then utterly failed miserably. So as a bolt comes back, you can see how the extractor feeder twin prong system kind of rolls up into position. It folds in. All right, so now I have the joy of putting it back together again. So I'm going to go more or less in reverse order. Put the breech block back in. Line it off to the side. We need the barrel. You can see the aligning groove here with a little bit of a wider space. It gives you a little bit of tolerance if you don't get it absolutely perfectly vertical. Just slot that back in. Put it back on the barrel. Line everything up there. It's there. Let's move to the right. Now it comes forward. Press the locking lever. Or not. Yeah, that looks like it went forward. Better. Or not. There we go. Yeah, you can see just how far back the barrel slides. So it's as the barrel slides backwards, you can see the bolt face and the extractor come up. So it comes back plate. That was easy enough. It's actually a bit easier than a 240 back plate. And then we have our two guide balls. Put a little hole here. Yep, there's the hole. So to go in and then rotate. Not being quite that stiff. Stay. Right, I'm happy to say that I've managed to put the M73 back together the way it's supposed to be, so I have not been banned from Royal Armouries, who of course, again, I appreciate their letting me pull apart this M73 and get a better understanding of this part of tank history from the Americas. That's pretty much it. I hope you found it interesting and informative. Again, thank you Royal Armouries, thank you for the Patreons who are helping fund me get to Leeds in the UK. And I hope you found it interesting and informative. I'll talk to you on the next one. All right. My head's off the top of the camera again. It happens. All right. Greetings all, and no, you're not on the wrong channel.
Rotate the receiver, allowing it to swing down. Then withdraw the barrel from the mounting block assembly.
So what the hell retains the... Unless it's only held on... No, it can't only be held on by that peg, surely. If you were uphill at all, it would fall off.
I think it is. Because
It's wobbling
the other way it's
around.
wobbling around. I think it's just held on by that one peg.
That's terrible.
So you want to make sure that the gun is level when you do this?
Yep.
Or slightly depressed?
I'd be slightly depressed if you issued me this. What an absolute asshole of a gun.
I shouldn't have had stop record at this point.
Just the Patreon content.
Yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake. This is where you get the rest of the staff. Hey, mate, come have a look at this.
What a hateful piece of kit. Nah, there's something stopping it.
Hang on a
It's like
second.
the barrel isn't quite in or lined up.
Hang on a second. Since we're doing this. Okay, so let's try this one more go. This is coming up. Not seeing anything there.
Nope.
That's clear. So I don't see anything stopping this.
I wonder if the barrel's too far in. Slightly. And that
You
flange on the back
might be right.
I don't think I can help with that, but... Yep.
You were right. What?
Ridiculous. Just don't overheat your gun.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't shoot it.
Yeah.